Alright, round 2, another die roll 1. So let's play first. Temple of Silence into Phalanx Leader and chosen by Heliod, Blood Troll Harpy. Yeah, without the silence without the temple this would have been unkeepable, but with the temple it's actually great. So no mulligan. Probably looking for another land. Well, best would be an island, of course. Swamp is also good. Plains, not so much. Probably still keeping it on top, just to be able to go turn 2 Phalanx Leader, turn 3 Harpy, and then chosen by Heliod targeting the leader. Any non-land is most likely going to the bottom. Read the Bones is very interesting. I'm still gonna ship it to the bottom. I think this hand needs a third land so badly that I'm willing to pass up on Read the Bones, even if it's tough. Alright. If I don't draw a third land, I have to play Chosen by Heliod on Phalanx Leader, I think. Yeah. Well, which is still great, it's just not what I wanted to do. Okay, there's the land. 2-4 against a 2-2 Blood Tor Harpy as a follow-up. Not much more though. Gonna hold back and just block the Philosopher. Okay, fair. I only upgraded my Phalanx Leader into a Traveling Philosopher, but my Traveling Philosopher has a much better late game, so. I feel like it was correct to put the Read the Bones on the bottom, even though I didn't draw the third land to just play the Harpy and get the bonus. Okay, this probably means there is Battle-Wise Valor, +2/+2 and Scry in my opponent's hand. I could just take 2 damage here, which I'm going to do. Could be a bluff attack, but okay, it could also mean Divine Verdict now that my opponent is passing with 4 mana up. So against Divine Verdict, I feel it's best to just not attack here. I don't want to let my opponent use his resources when he wants to do it, but rather when I want him to do it. At some point in the game, I might want to Pharika's Cure my own Phalanx Leader, so that's something to keep in mind. So hopefully no flash creature here, maybe a Griptide, but yeah, nothing is of course the best for me. And now we might not even see an attack by the Philosopher anymore, especially not after casting the Chimera first. Any land means Lash of the Whip takes the Chimera out. Okay, that's not a land. That's not a good draw at all. Just gonna cast it and say go. Okay, now a land would really be helpful. Can't take too much damage against this Chimera. And a Horizon Scholar. Alright. I have a new target for Lash of the Whip, but need some help here. Okay, this is a great card to put on Phalanx Leader, but I'm lacking the mana to do so. The 2/2 isn't doing anything on the board, so I can just say go. On the other hand, I'm taking 7, so I might be forced to just put the Observant Elseid on Blood Tor Harpy just to survive. I'm probably too far behind now. Seagull's Revenge also. Okay. Yeah, the mana didn't work out at all this game. It's kind of unfortunate, starting with Temple of Silence and a Plains. I thought that there was a good chance. Oh, my opponent is doing the same trick I did, playing around Divine Verdict, but in a spot where it's completely unnecessary, I think. Card has been put on both card. Well, the one card my opponent saw has been put on top 2 times. So let's see. Sip of Hemlock. What a great card. Yeah, Bloodshot Harpy on its own isn't going to do anything. Phalanx Leader isn't going to do anything either, but I'm just gonna play the 2 cards that I can cast. Vaporkin. At least we learned something else about my opponent's deck. It would be better to have to have the Harpy in play here, but don't think it would really help. Yeah. Okay. The flyers are definitely good here, although Sentry of the Underworld is kind of weak compared to the 3/4 and 4/4 flyers of my opponent. On the other hand, I don't really have anything great to put in front of these flyers. I think I just have to try to have a more proactive, more successfully proactive game than the one that we saw. Elspeth might be absolutely insane with the -3 ability. Lash of the Whip, Sip of Hemlock are key cards. I'm going to keep in a Pharros' Warden because it's great against Prescient Chimera, and I hope that my deck performs a bit better than last time. Still not playing Unknown Shores though. Not that desperate. Alright. Not a fast hand, but one that's very good against the huge flyers and the traveling philosophers, so not a mulligan. Alright, starting off with the plains, in case I draw Phalanx Leader. Also have the Swamp if I draw Return Phalanx. Temple of Silence is a card I can just play here. Swamp isn't something I need, so that's an easy bottom. Now the Scholar is probably the play over the Elseed. My opponent has shown a bunch of 2-mana 2/2s, so playing a 3-mana 2/2 Vigilance is probably not what I want to be doing. Well, against Vaporkin there's some chance of just racing, but I still like the Scholar better. There's a good chance that I will bestow Observant Elseed onto it at some point, and as I've said, there is still a high danger of Observant Elseed just not being good enough. Ordeal of Heliod is not something I like to see here, but I still have all the tools to deal with this, so I'm gonna stick to my plan of just keeping the Elseed in my hand. Its impact is just not high enough. Oh wow, Fate Foretold also. And I can't punish it because I don't have the blue for Voyage's End. Alright, there's the one of the many 2/2s. My opponent is playing around Divine Verdict, which is really nice for me. So now I can keep open Lash of the Whip, and there's a good chance my opponent will still not attack. On the other hand, my opponent could be playing around Divine Verdict because he's holding something like God's Willing, and then having Lash of the Whip would be really awkward. Also, this means that the Ordeal isn't triggering. I'm giving my opponent an extra card, but I kind of have to do that. Alternatively, I can just put Observant Elseed on Scholar of Atheros and try to race a little bit, but then I take 4 on the backswing. That doesn't seem too good. So just gonna kill this. Don't think there is a reason to get fancy here. Okay, I'm gonna take the bait and block. My opponent can always make this attack. So, didn't think that this was particularly risky. Okay, Wavecrash Triton means it's quite a lot more dangerous to put Observant Outseed on Scholar of Theros, which means I'm just gonna develop my board and keep this as a 1/4. It doesn't have to be a 3/5 Vigilance. And I can still punish anything with the Voyage's End that I have. Wow, quite aggressive. Don't know what this could mean, but I'm just gonna block the Philosopher like last turn and take my 1. Blocking Wavecrash Triton is dangerous because of Heroic. I don't want that to trigger. And there's Horizon Scholar, kind of expected. Also a card that I can already answer. Bottom, top. Okay, 1 good card and maybe a land. I'm leaving myself open to getting to letting my opponent trigger Heroic here, but this Sib of Hemlock is very powerful. Also gonna hold back the Scholar because it's such a good blocker, and my hand is shaping up very nicely. I kind of want my opponent to draw some auras here because I think I can beat auras quite easily with the cards I've drawn. I'm hesitant to bestow my creatures because of the Wavecrash Triton. And I kind of like having the Voyage's End as a backup card. So I might just play this. Now it blocks everything my opponent has. And I get to keep open Voyage's End. Okay, this is more than fine. I probably want something to trade with it at some point, but not concerned. Okay, there we go. Chosen by Heliod, tapping down Erebus' Emissary, and I can just trade this for the card my opponent would draw and the fact that he would get a 1/6 out of the deal. Is that good enough? I think it is. I'm also using my mana very efficiently, so kind of like doing that. And I'm keeping my Mythic Rare on top. This means my opponent isn't drawing into anything crazy. And I'm taking 4. And now I can stay back on defense with Bloodtroll Harpy, drop my 6-drop, and then we see what happens. No Stimate hopes, at least. Now Bloodtroll Harpy can block Breaching Hippocamp, Scholar can block the Philosopher, Meadowmite can block Wavecrash Triton without losing to a +2/+2 effect. And there is Celestial Archon. That's very good. So this gets bestowed and gives +4/+4 first strike and flying. Okay, we have Sentry of the Underworld maybe, so kind of want to block here. Well, let's see. I'm threatening to attack my opponent down to 8. So Erebus' Emissary has to get blocked starting next turn. This is really good for me. So I have to take this damage. I'm ahead in the race as long as my opponent doesn't have another way to target the Triton. Okay, land isn't particularly great, but it's also not the worst, so gonna be interesting to see if this Emissary gets blocked or how it gets blocked. Yeah, that's a pretty solid block, I would say. Gonna discard this. Opponent goes to 8. And I play a Sentry of the Underworld. Alright, I hope I'm not dying here. I might be dead to another targeting effect, but I didn't think I was going to beat another targeting effect, so. Okay, so we are dead to this. Yep. Not beating it. I'm not sure if I could have played around that. Because now we take exactly 7 and all of this is tapped and we have the Mtgo, which would have been great, but I mean the Triton Tactics just crushes me anyway. If I attack with this next turn and the Triton Tactics untaps the Wave Crash Triton, tapping something else, I think I'm dead as well. I think the attack was alright. Could have held back the Harpy maybe and still enticed the block. But this way I just died to exactly lethal. Alright. Well, my opponent did some powerful stuff there. I would have to think about this again, or maybe rewatch the video, which you can definitely do. If I keep back the Harpy just to chump block here and play the Sentry, then my opponent definitely can't kill me. Then I draw a card, and I mean, if the Wave Crash Triton is tapped, I'm gonna attack with Mtgo, but then Triton Tactics is just the absolute blowout. It means that 2 of my creatures are getting ambushed, or at least 1 is getting ambushed. I'm still not attacking for lethal, not remotely close to lethal, and this eats the Mtgo, taps something down, is still the best threat in the air. So I figured I would just play as if my opponent couldn't target the Triton anymore, which was maybe a bit too optimistic, but yeah, that's looks like that's the match. No finals appearance this time. However, I think we drafted a pretty sweet deck. The draw in game 1 just didn't cut it, although it could definitely have gone the other way, if you ask me. And we got an Elspeth out of the deal. So that's it. First Theros draft of the new year. I'm Simon Godson, recording Simon Says for mtgoacademy.com. Tune in next time when we draft more Theros. Bye bye.